Right. I cut it short at halfway. So, Mike, if you're there, that was just for you, but that was for everyone. I'm working on a shorter intro. Woo Wednesday. I guess it's 11 p.m. where I am, and on the West Coast where y'all are, is it 10:10?
It's 10:10. Yeah. Wow.
10 p.m. Sorry, I was a minute ahead for the first time in history. Bernie was early by 1 minute.
1 minute later.
1 minute later, it is 11:11, so it's still Wednesday. So we got Woo Wednesday. We have Mike back. We've got Julia, Hans, and of course myself. Did you get your updates, or was it lab results or something you were waiting on that were supposed to come in today, Mike?
Yeah, we got the stone testing back on these pieces here. We tried to do a carbon date on an obsidian inlay on one of these pieces, but the type of stone that this came back as is a type of limestone. And what's really interesting with this is you can see, all these pieces, if they chip, they're white underneath. And so the face on all these pieces, this orange color, is not the actual color of the stone, but it's because it's like patina
And that's
accumulated.
White limestone or white sandstone? Limestone, correct?
Yeah, it's white, like you can see here as well, like the inside there that it's a white crystalline substance.
It's not a plaster or a replica clay. No, it's an actual stone or possibly geopolymer, most likely carved stones, correct?
Yeah, the fact it's limestone is really interesting. Just because of its reflective properties, that's what gives it the phosphorescence and its reactiveness to the UV light.
It's almost like what they do with brass to the brass sculptures in Nepal to antique them. They'll rub them in kerosene, and the kerosene will blacken in the corners, and it adds this really interesting patina coloring to it. Interesting.
Agreed. Another thing we tested too was we had a bunch of the metal XRF tested. I think I sent you. I don't know if you can show any of those images, but we tested all of these today and got their metal analysis back. And the combination is found in these. We have iron and tin and lead and zinc and copper and what was the other one? Gosh, I'm missing one in there. But silver. This one here was pure copper, or there was just a slight bit of iron in it.
And the machine you're using, is it able to get the specific isotopes or whatever it is that's required to be able to source the where the metals came from?
Well, the alloy there that you see, if it was gold, you might have an easier time, or a silver. The fact that it's such a mix of metals is really an interesting fact, because it's not just something. In the piece from Awelos that we tested, we found rhodium again, and so now we found rhodium in both Awelos and Tula pieces, which is $4,200 an ounce currently, and really expensive stuff. So the fact that we found 6% of the alloy to be rhodium, it's hundreds of dollars worth of the metal. I mean, it's really expensive stuff. Mm-hmm.
That's a very fascinating alloy mix blend for sure.
Yeah, it had 22% gold. There was silver in it, rhodium, and there was one other thing in there too. I think it was zinc, actually. Yep.
When the user made, money was not of value. At least not the money.
Well, refinement. I think refinement wasn't an option necessarily.
Yeah.
You can see these.
It's interesting. We were talking alchemy earlier, and it's like if you mix copper and zinc, you get brass, and so that's interesting.
Yeah, these are definitely formulations of brass, but in a weird, not consistent way that we would see it today. That's for sure.
Yeah. interesting. Orichalcum, I knew it.
Almost potentially sounds like some ancient Atlantean style pre-cataclysm alloys.
That was my orichalcum joke.
Yeah, that's right. What's the name of it? Orichalcum, and
it's
like
orichalcum.
gold, silver, something mix, right?
It's like nickel, silver, copper, and I think there's one other alloy in it. It makes it. It gives it like a reddish tint. They found a lot of this in Peru in the T-stone cuts. Especially, yeah. So when they started finding the T-stone cuts that actually still had poured metal in them, they were finding these incredibly interesting alloys. There's a gentleman, I have the book behind me on my shelf. I can't think of the name of who wrote it, but it's called Atlantis in the Andes, and he was tracking down a lot of these really bizarre artifacts that are found way up near Lake Titicaca and around Pumapunku. And
yep.
A lot of them.
Pumapunku has some really interesting stuff in general.
Oh yeah, for sure. We were talking about that. Was it the last episode we were on? I don't even remember. Where there was some drought and the lake drained. Oh, I was actually having this conversation. Sorry, at the sauna the other night. The Lake Titicaca drained down, and they were finding the remains of an old village under the water, as well as all sorts of other artifacts that they knew this stuff was down there, but because the lake is so deep and it's at such high altitude, it's really hard to get diving equipment that can actually explore. And so
I hear the water's also very murky.
It's super murky, yeah.
And yeah, that I've heard of that there's like a supposed couple pyramids that have shown or that have started to be visible because of the evaporation, as well as like a island that had like a little city on it that has since risen from the drought.
Yeah, I'd love to go up there and stay on one of those. They have like reed boat hotels that you can stay on Lake Titicaca. That would be so amazing, because the reed boats are almost identical how they were making them in Bolivia, Peru, whatever that area was.
Did you get like elevation sickness?
So that's
I said alien. Yeah, did you get alien sickness?
You asked that because when we got to Cusco, you fly into Cusco and you're at 13,000 feet, and I grew up in Nepal, so it's like I still have the the blood additive, I guess, from living at high altitude. Kathmandu is not that high; it's 4,700 feet.
The Sherpa epigenetic.
Right, exactly. But everybody on my tour was popping altitude sickness pills like nobody's business, and they were sick the entire time. And I stuck to the local remedies. I had my teas.
Oh, Hans, I wanted to tell you this. You know the most taken male in national parks is German males.
Sorry, what?
The most like in national parks, there's like a lot of missing
national park missing peoples. The most often missing.
It's the most sought after. So be careful. Be careful when you go into national parks, Hans. They want you. Damn it.
I carry a big stick.
The Fourth Reich.
What was that?
There's the rumors of the UFOs with the breakaway civilization of the Fourth or Fifth Reich or something after World War II and the whole Antarctica theory. So maybe that's why, right? They're taking them German men for or the same reason, but it could be completely different group kidnapping for this exact same reason. Could be the Hutterites that are also known, for taking the jacking men for introducing the new seed, right?
The Uberman. They want your blood for the Uberman, Hans. How do you feel about that, Hans?
Dieter has a dream.
Was that one a whistle, or what was that you were just holding up, Mike?
looks like a pipe.
It's
of
just
sewage.
like a little effigy making praise to this being in the center. They just lay around, some in the chokmal position and others. Well, that guy has a straight rocket pack on his back.
That's wild.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a
Got a
few
rocket.
depictions like that too of weird. Let's see if I have it in here.
And then if you get a chance to show, I want Hans to see the scrying mirror.
Oh yeah.
Is it like obsidian?
It is.
Amazing. Oh wow. That is interesting.
Isn't that crazy? I'd never seen anything like that. I mean, I've seen obsidian, not polished like that though.
It's interesting. In a different life, when I lived in Nepal, I used to take. There's a hospital here in Portland, and the father of one of the medical practitioners who ran one of the clinics in Kathmandu always needed supplies, and because this is the late 80s, early 90s, there's no way to get a lot of supplies to South Asia at that point. And so I became a carrier for the hospital, and they would give
Mike,
me all
before you put that down, do you mind showing the actual mirror aspect of or lens of it? Like that's wild.
really wild. Yeah.
They
would give me all these surgical tools, and most of them were obsidian blades, because the obsidian cuts cleaner than metal. Metal leaves a jagged mark, and so that's what creates a lot of scarification. And so the obsidian surgical tools actually work a lot better because they don't leave scarification. And so I always thought that was super fascinating about obsidian.
Yeah, this is extremely sharp right here.
Ooh, I like that piece.
Cut to the bone. But that
is like that. It's just
this was actually taken out of this dagger here. This dagger is a bone piece that we carbon dated. You can see where it was mounted in there. And then we lobbed off one of the nubs here also to get the marrow out of there.
That mirror, I can't help but suspect, like I need you to run some science experiments with it, like looking at the next solar or filming the next solar eclipse through it.
April?
As well, exactly, right? And I suspect it could be used to activate those the false doors, or the crazy mountain triple door carvings.
Interesting.
I don't know.
I know the last solar eclipse was, obviously here in Oregon, we had it like direct. That was crazy. I've never actually been through one of those, and to see how light distorts when you get to the perfect corona halo, it really was interesting, because everything around you starts vibrating, and then it peters out. It was really, really intense. It was very cool to watch.
See, it just blew my mind.
The feet on this being here. If you look at some of the Sumerian depictions of Ninhursag and Inanna,
she's got claws. She has like claws.
Yeah, so it's really interesting to see that here as well.
What are they?
If you ever want to get my attention, just say Inanna, and I'm like, what? What? Sorry, Bernie, I interrupted you.
Yeah.
I was trying to think. I believe they're called sirens, like the evil mermaids or something. They kind of have like bird feet too sometimes.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, that's a great possibility, actually. And they came out of the sea, which is interesting because, we see pieces like this here. You can see they're clearly with a fishtail. If I can show you here. But they almost look like mermaids,
Yeah, there was one piece, I think a newer piece you had shown last time, that was a straight up mermaid depiction. Yeah, on the crystal skull, was it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you guys ever see The Golden Child?
Great
Anyone?
Of
You know
course.
how behind the thing, but like, you know what I'm talking about? And it was flying like it was like, was it smoking something? But it had a tail like that.
She's a Naga, so she was a half dragon, half woman.
Yeah.
She's a Naga.
And I think that's really related to all of this.
Yes, that's the word. Thank you, Hans. I was trying to think of another term of those could be not depicting Naga. What were described as Naga.
I mean, you find these depictions all over Buddhist art. The first king of Bhutan, his name was Jurgen Wanchu, and he was known as the Druk Gyalpo, which is the cloud dragon king, basically. But his Drokpa or Dropa name was Deb Nagpo, which basically means the flying serpent lord. So you have all these of Nagas everywhere, and then they show up in the movies as well. So I mean, look at Conan the Barbarian, right? So James Earl Jones' character turns himself into a snake because he's part of this Naga. That's his blood lineage, basically. Even Medusa was a Naga, right? So she was half snake, half human.
Yep.
Yes.
A lot of the Titans and the golden era there, where the gods walked with man, definitely resonates with some of this stuff pretty heavily. You notice the beard, this is like the beard of the pharaohs, and even King Tut's death mask has one of these beards on it. And I looked up what
looks straight up Upper Egypt, right? Like is it Ethiopian? The taller, slantier pyramids.
Right.
Yeah. In Sudan.
Those are in Sudan.
Sudan, yes. Mm-hmm.
But what's interesting is all of these angelic beings have these garments or these braided things, and so what's interesting is the Egyptian pharaohs, even King Tut would strap on a beard.
Well, they all had false beards, yeah.
Well, they did it to honor their creators, and what's funny is they're the living gods, and they wore this to honor their creators, and so it's so similar to what we see, and then you see on this depiction here.
It's
Cthulhu. Where you have all the tentacles coming out of there, and I believe that these are braided and or covered with a garment for vanity reasons throughout the evolution of this species, and it even shows it here. You've got this guy here who's evolved. He doesn't have any of that stuff, whereas this guy does.
It's interesting. This is very if you've ever read the short story by H.P. Lovecraft, the Call of Cthulhu. So
I've never read it.
Oh, Cthulhu was an extraterrestrial that had been worshipped for eons and decades, and they buried his castle.
You said Cthulhu?
Yeah, they buried it. They buried
sex worship. Whoa, I'm sorry, Hans. You just said that like that was the. Can you like explain that?
Sex worship? No, I said Cthulhu, and so they buried his castle or the place where he was living. That was described as having these massively huge doors, and he would send out these messages to different Aboriginal groups around the world. And so this scientist started realizing that there's all these overlaps between these Inuit cultures and this language. And so he was trying to find where this buried castle was, and it's like in the middle of the Arctic. But Cthulhu was supposedly an extraterrestrial and looked very, very similar to this.
Yeah, Dub Selector. I want to respond to that chat that I just saw.
Dub Selector is my moderator. He works on 14 different quantum computers, and he said that at Contact in the Desert, there's a guy. He asked me if I saw it at the booth.
Yeah, no. That's Josh and Anthony, the Ancient Aslan guys. They specialize in pieces from Abuelos de Jalisco, and they're good friends and they're just out there like me trying to get awareness spread for this and trying to figure out what the heck we're seeing.
Is that
It's pretty
turquoise?
advanced stuff.
Looks like
Yeah.
that's a nice piece too.
And so that's like a sundial or astrology?
Good question. I don't know. Lots
Wow.
of dials and things.
How many
That
symbols are there total?
looks
8.
Kind of reminds me of the
that
Mayan.
looks Mayan Aztec, 100% Mayan Aztec glyphs.
Yeah.
You mean Olmec?
Or Olmec. Olmec, sorry, yeah.
Because
Olmec
the Mayans and the Aztecs borrowed heavily
Olmec.
from the
Good
Olmecs.
call. And I can't help but wonder if Cthulhu, you said, was in the Arctic, if the Devon Island pyramids and could be a potential location.
That's fascinating. Yeah,
I thought Cthulhu was beneath the water. I
Yeah,
thought Cthulhu was a water, like a big, almost like a Loch Ness type thing.
This is what comes from the story: is his castle was buried under the oceans, and they wake him up, and basically he chases after their boat, which is trying to retreat. Obviously you can't go super fast with wind.
That one is telling a story of a comet hitting and bouncing off or deflecting, or
Yeah, likely when Tiamat maybe blew. I think maybe they had some, because in the Sumerian cuneiform tablets, Marduk destroys Tiamat.
Well, because he gets in the Tablet of Destinies, he gains it, and then once he has that power, you know.
Yeah, so I think that fracture is where we got our moon, where Venus's atmosphere got messed up, where the scar on Mars came from, and possibly where our ice age came from. Just fragments of Tiamat, and that's where the asteroid belt comes from as well.
You should all watch Dark Journalist's Friday show last week with Joseph Farrell. Amazing. And they got into a little bit of that. So if Tiamat was a water-bearing planet and Mars was one of its moons, once that planet would have been exploded, there would have been an electrical discharge, basically because of the nature of the two.
And that's where the giant Mars. Wow, that makes
it makes sense.
I'm giving credit where credit is due. Joseph's work is just really amazing, and he's like the only place anywhere in our solar system that there would have been a worldwide global flood. The flood is on Mars, especially after this, War of the Gods, era, basically. And so,
why one half of Mars is covered in craters and the other half is covered in sand dune covered pyramids and faces.
There's enough frozen and underground water on Mars that they've discovered so far that could basically cover the entire planet with about 4 feet of water, something like this. 4 feet, 4 inches.
Wow.
It was 4 feet. I might be getting that wrong. Anyway, watch the show. It's an amazing show. Or listen to it. They don't really show much, but
I've missed some of that. Mike, do you mind if you've got some of the flutes or the musical instrument ones around you to sample a couple for us?
Yeah, for sure. I'll do this guy here.
Legend of Zelda time.
You have to blow really hard on that one to get the higher pitched one to go. Not near as nice as this.
I like it.
Wow.
That one was deep.
Yeah, they sound pretty insane. This stone is really interesting to me because as a rock collector, I like to collect specimens that are, geologically crazy and how they were made. And like this You see this line that goes down this thing. It's almost as if someone fused these stones together. Like, it's amazing. And the fact it's a hollowed out whistle, it makes you wonder, like, did
With
they have a
alchemy
way to
symbols
weld
on the
that?
left.
I mean, it's insane, right? I don't know. Really
That's
unique
wild.
specimen, though. There's a couple. Like this whistle here shows like the joining of the serpent and the duck. I think it is for the for Quetzalcoatl. It's
Have you guys? What's the name of the pyramid again? That you
that
clap your
question-
hands and it like it has like a bird sound back.
Chichen Itza.
Yes.
It comes right back at you. So epic. What? Sorry, before you put it away, the last one you had was like a see-through crystal whistle.
Yeah, it's quartz.
That's a quartz crystal whistle.
Yep.
Say that 5 times fast. Quartz. Crystal whistle.
This is like a death whistle here. It hurts my ears to blow it, but I'll do it anyways. Oof, man,
That's a good dog training whistle.
Right?
So loud.
I just thought that too.
This is
All of the canines.
Hey, these dogs are going crazy. It's like the jackal.
also quartz here.
Jaguar whistle out of pure
Yeah,
quartz.
jaguar, and then it's like holding a skull down here.
Now, is this found in Jalisco or whatever? Like,
No, these are all Tula. I've only got one whistle from Jalisco, and it's a ceramic one. It's in my safe. I don't keep it out usually because it's ceramic, really breakable.
now, do you like? Are you able to decide which pieces you get before?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I buy parcels usually to save on shipping and costs. So, they'll go out and dig, in Jalisco, for instance, for 4 or 5 days and then come back to town and sell what they have. So, you might get a snake and a face and some of these, and, you never know really what they're going to find. And then with Tula, those guys are out there digging in teams, and so they will sell parcels as well, 6 or 8 of the pieces at once.
Tula's the location with the video that you shared with me with the underground cave that it has covered in the identical matching elongated skull carvings.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, and this is 1,500 meters from the pyramid there. That's a sacred site. It's literally right on the other side of the border wall that contains that sacred site on a farmer's field. And so,
wait, sacred site. Wait, I want to hear more about this sacred site.
Yeah, the pyramid there, the flat-topped pyramid complex in Tula Hidalgo that has the Atlantean statues that stands on top of it.
I am not familiar with that, Mike.
They're holding these really, really weird. They almost look like weapons, but
they're tools of some form. Yeah,
futuristic of sorts. Yeah, they're called the Atlanteans. That's right.
Yeah, which is interesting. I actually have that. I got a basalt one that's like a miniaturized version of that. It's upstairs. I'll bring it down here one of these days. It's very heavy, so I've just pretty much left it upstairs.
Or bring the camera up there one of these days.
Yeah, I'm not gonna go live in my house.
Wait, so Tula, tell me more about. I want to know about Tula.
Yeah, I mean, it's a whole book on itself. Like it's this space though is inside the town pretty much, and it's like 256 acres or something like that. That's all fenced off, and it's the sacred site. If you look at it from the top down, it almost looks like Karnak in similarity. And what's interesting is there's all these white podiums that line the courtyard of Tula's site.
Egypt or Karnak, France.
Karnak, Egypt, yeah, Luxor, down in that area.
Luxor and Karnak actually are the same site. They connect.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I didn't know if you knew
by the
one or the other. Some people don't know that.
Yeah, most people don't.
Yeah, Luxor's the temple within Karnak, right? And so, yeah. Anyways, but the layout is what's really interesting is they have all these podiums and obelisks, and a lot of the obelisks were removed. And what's interesting with Tula is there's all these white podiums that look like they were obelisks that were cut off or broken off. And I mean, there's hundreds of them. And I always wondered what they were. Someone was like, "Oh, they're gravestones."
Tons of pictures of ancient Olmec monoliths everywhere in the jungle that seem to have all been destroyed and gone missing.
Yeah. So I believe that these obelisks were towers that brought in the energy and allowed them to utilize and do alchemy, because there's a lot of depiction of alchemy and that sort of portals and shit that looks like magic. Excuse my language. Yeah, it's I mean, there's no other way to describe it, you know?
I don't know if I should.
Do you mind zooming in on the symbols a little bit for us, Mike?
Yeah, for sure.
That looks like a female. You never really see that. The one in the center beneath the wings. Yeah. It looks like a female Horus.
We found a female Anubis as well, and I actually looked into the record, and there is her or his wife actually, and there's not a lot of depictions of her, but we found an entire 3D statue of her.
Really? Where?
In Tula. I don't own it, but I have pictures of it though. I've documented it.
Because from what I understand, they all had a female counterpart, but it's really hard to find any type of information or evidence on that.
Right. Well, I think that's probably before the fall, and after the fall was just the 200, and I think that the woman was suppressed really heavily. It seems like there's no women priests hardly. There's no women priests. It's like that. In Christianity, Judaism, all these religions, it's very uncommon to find.
They took all the women out, and that Hans, this is the perfect opportunity. You got to say it. I feel like the hype man for Hans of I always try to hype him up to say this information, which is this is my favorite part, is about the pharaohs. Hans, you have to say it now.
I will definitely dive into that. So there were everything came in fives into the ancient Cometians. I mean, Egypt is an interesting word in itself. Egypt came from the word Het-Ka-Ptah, which is where Ptah's energy and physical presence manifests. And this was a temple basically in Memphis. And the Greeks thought it was the name of the entire land. And so Het-Ka-Ptah became Het-Keptos, which then became Egyptos, which became Egypt. And it's interesting that the Coptic comes from this as well. Ka-Ptah is Coptic, and so it's the body of the creator, or the son of the creator. And so this is similar to Jesus or Jesus, right? Or Jesus, because Ye would be the son or the physical body of Zeus. And so this is all these words come together. But to the ancient Cometians, the land of Kem, there were 5 houses, and the 5 houses were the Per-Wer, which is the house of the wise men, which is a university or a hospital or a learning center. There's the Per-Neter, and the Per-Neter was the house of energy or the house of nature. And this was a pyramid, so the pyramids were obviously not tombs. There was the Per-Ka, which is the house of the body or the physical manifestation of the body. So this is a tomb. This is where the body goes to rest. And then there's Per-Ba. Ba is a bird with your head or your face on it. And the Ba was one of the 7 spirits or 7 souls that would leave your body to go into the afterlife, or the Duat, basically. And so this is a temple of worship. This is
the pharaohs. The pharaohs.
Right. So the highest house of them all was called the Per-Ah, and this is the house of the woman, the high house of the woman, and this is where the word pharaoh comes from. There were no male pharaohs. Period.
Boom! Oh my God, that's such a hot take. What?
End of story. All of the pharaohs were women. They were the high priestesses of Isis and not Hatshepsut, but well, I think of the other, the goddess with the
Sekhmet?
no, she's got the cow ears, and
Hathor.
Hathor, thank you. So the high house of Hathor and the high priestesses of Isis were the ones that would anoint and initiate the kings. And some Egyptologists and some historians are smart, and they always say in the time of Pharaoh there was King Tut and King Ramses and King Imhotep and King Akhenaten. But more modern Egyptologists and archaeologists call them all pharaohs, and it's just like, that's so incorrect.
That makes a lot of sense to me.
Well, it just seems like they've been trying to take women out, and that's kind of how they've gotten they take them out of the Bible, and then they make all the stories like, oh, she was a prostitute. Like you're more likely to have an enslaved. If you take the feminine energy and then you invert it, like. They destroyed the temples of the goddess, all this Inanna stuff, all this goddess worship. And then you get the highest, like the soul technology, the closest you can get to God, it resides within a woman. Between her hips is the soul portal. Come on. So the fact that we fell for this of like, and we're not worshiping women, and maybe we don't have to worship women, but like hold them on a high regard of like, you gave me life.
Right. And this also comes back to the Greeks, because they saw everything as being patrilinear and not realizing that, the rule of ancient Chem was a matriarch. And you kind of see this in some of the pre-dynastic and dynastic times, because there's the Old Kingdom and the New Kingdoms, and some of the Old Kingdom aspects you see the matriarchy, but it's not like the complete opposite of a patriarchy. It's a unity project, right? And so the women had the rule of fertility and the art and the land, and the men ruled over the kings, basically their consorts ruled over the people. And so together they created the fertility and the ongoing fertility of the land. And it's interesting, you're talking about these obelisks at Tula, or Thule, or whatever we're going to call this place, because the obelisks would have been able to transmit energy coming from the pyramids, this natural geomancy energy, which would have enlightened the people and also created massive fertility with the crops because of the electromagnetism. And
huge.
Well, this is like
culture aspect of it.
I think that's super fascinating that you find these towers, these obelisks all over the world. I mean, it's mind-blowing. They're everywhere.
Well,
same with columns. I mean, all the columns at Tula also are very interesting, because you don't see a lot of columns in South America, but at Tula, it's like a site out of time and out of place. Nothing there seems to match anything around it, and so I find that really fascinating. Anyway, sorry, Julia.
Just like what women represent, though. I mean, the closest you can get to God is through imagination, through creativity and intuition. And women, with their intuition, are the things that women can do when their child is in danger, and how they get this energy where they could literally lift up cars, right? Like supernatural. Right. And they give us like the amazing thing. When you hold a baby, your body goes down to 76.8 or 0.6 degrees. Your body knows when you're holding a baby, it naturally goes down. The way that it produces milk is absolutely amazing. When you're breastfeeding, a child like so far away can make a sound. The woman's body who's breastfeeding can literally produces milk. It's unbelievable. It's so divine. It shows that there's God. It shows how divine we are. And then women, the natural healers that they are, with the herbs and the instincts and the intuition that they get when something's wrong, and how to care for them, and modalities of healing modalities. And then the fact, if I had told you and explained to you that like that would be like a whole population and world would be like, how do you like, if I came to you, it was like, how do I convince an entire planet to not honor women and to think they're not powerful? Like, but what I mean, wouldn't you be like that? Wouldn't that take convincing of like, wait a second, wait, no, they give us life. That can never happen. You can never do this. It's like, yeah, but I'm coming out with this like marketing campaign. I really need your help on this. How do I convince an entire several generations that women are not powerful and that they're whores and you're not to listen to them because that's our biggest, that's our biggest thing here. That's going against us. It would be hard. Like you would think there's no way.
A shout out to all women. If we want to end the wars in the world, Julia and I talked about this before with
put women in charge
DNA
of every country
and menstrual blood. But the women used to give their blood back to the earth, and wars did not persist. Now men go out and die on the battlefield, and their blood becomes this, sacrifice back to the sacred planet. And it's like, if we ever want to end wars, these women who are the mistresses of all these oligarchs and these, the world's rulers, they just need to give up sex and not have sex with the rulers anymore. And you would see how quickly war would end. I mean, it would be amazing. But going to what you were saying about breast milk and the child knowing and the mother knowing, this weird instinct between the two. Did we ever talk about the phantom DNA experiments that have been done?
Yes. Yeah, get into it. I'm all about the phantom DNA.
So one of the experiments, they cut off like an inch piece of flesh off of one of the test subjects, and they sent it to a different lab, like several countries away. This was in Europe when this was being done. And they would do all these experimental tests on the subject. So they would introduce the subject to pain or to pleasure or to vibration or to heat or to cold. And they would watch this 1-inch slab of flesh in this other lab, and it would react almost in real time, exactly the same as the test subject that was being tested upon.
Quantum entanglement.
Quantum entanglement. Talk about the mother knowing my son or my daughter is in danger. This is amazing because it's like, it's almost an instant, intuition that the mother has. So the father doesn't have this. It's always the mother, because the child came from, in essence, the mother, right? And so the child is a piece of mom. We're all pieces of mom and grandma and great grandma. It's like this matrilinear, passing of DNA, basically, the mitochondrial DNA. And so to have this reaction, this scientific reaction around DNA and phantom DNA effects is really, really fascinating. And so when Julia was talking about, breastfeeding, it brings that up almost instantly. It's like, wow, there is definitely this, quantum entanglement going on between the mother and the child, because they are the same. The child comes from the mother, basically.
Absolutely.
And also, like, just biological life, like within the body, and like you're saying, from mom to child.
Well, and I mean, it's the same with Earth. So Earth is Gaia's Mother Earth, right? And Earth is a water-bearing planet, and we have a plasma sun generator out there that heats us and gives us life. One of the other phantom DNA effects was they would take these 2 test tubes. One was autoclaved, so it was completely sterile water. There was nothing in it. And the other one had seawater in it. So it's like teeming with this microscopic, crustacean life, in a sense.
Well, Hans, let's see it. The cerebral spinal fluid is one molecule different than seawater.
Right.
And the fact that, and then the moon too, the fact that it can affect the ocean and the tides the way that it does. And we're mainly, we're so similar to that water.
70% water, right. So it's fascinating that they took these 2 test tubes and they put them in a totally isolated room, sound, water, sound, light, the whole 9 yards. And they shined one of these green scientific lasers through the seawater test tube, through the autoclave test tube. And they came back, it was something like 18 hours later. And they've reproduced this experiment several times now. They came out 18 hours later, I believe. And they looked at both test tubes, and the second test tube that was totally autoclaved and had no life in it had the resonance of the same life that you would find in the seawater. And so the green laser is a plasma generator, and the water is what holds the DNA. And so if we're drifting through different parts of space that are very thick with bacterium or DNA, and our sun is beaming through, these elements into the water-bearing planet, we're going to have all this life appear. And so it kind of explains where we had the Cambrian, breach in our history, where all of a sudden all this new life comes out of nowhere, and it's like, well, why did it come out of nowhere? What is going on in space? And so then the other question is, if we're bobbing and weaving through these dense areas of space, so are other solar systems and other star systems as well. And so the potential for genetic cousins and genetic cousin life out there in the universe is huge, because as we know, these other suns would be going through these same processes. And if they had a water-bearing planet, then that planet would also have life.
Like vortexes acts as portals of energy and transference, and water is the mediator between physicality and the 0 point energy of the quantum field. So of looking at that, like, because a lot of my insights too, with like the inner earth things that I discovered in remote viewing, a lot of, like, I call them the water worshippers. Now, what did they have done? This is huge. This is a huge reveal. It may not be big to you guys, maybe at the moment, or maybe you'll get it. But what I saw down there was a lot of those obelisks that you see. It was like, it looked like imagine giant quartz obelisks. But there was always water beneath it. I'm like, oh my God, these water worshippers, they're charging the water. They're doing it through light. And they're doing it through that, but they know exactly what they're doing. And they're like the way that they're charging it. And I don't fully understand it, but it's very advanced. And so it's like on a whole nother level. So when he's talking about the obelisks, I'm like, oh my gosh, I've seen those down there, down at the core. But that's just the way of charging the water. And the fact that, like what I just said about the water being the mediator, portals of energy transference, and the mediator between physicality and the 0 point energy of the quantum field. So there's like much more being done there than we can even imagine or conceptualize.
Well, all these obelisks that you find in Egypt, that a lot of them have been moved. There's one in the Louvre, there's one in Rome, in the Vatican. There's one in Washington, D.C. There's one in Paris. Or I guess it's not Washington, D.C. It's in Philadelphia, I think.
No, New York.
New York. You're correct. It's New York. They're all made from granite. Well, what is granite? Granite is quartz crystal embedded in a matrix. So these are giant quartz crystal resonators. Same with the pyramids. I mean, you look at the pyramids and you have the inner chambers are all rose quartz or rose granite or black granite that came out of Aswan. But then surrounding that is limestone, and then the casing stones on top of that would have been more of an alabaster or a quartz.
Mike, wasn't a lot of these things, weren't they tested to be that?
Yeah, that's why it was really
limestone. Limestone, right?
That one was wild. The one you were just
limestone
holding.
Conducts
it had a larger planet than Jupiter, and
super
it also
conductive,
had and Saturn on that.
Yeah, that could be Tiamat.
Yusuf has a tower that's electrified, and he has different stone types on the tower, and he'll test it with a wand to see which ones are electric, which ones shoot off sparks. And the granite doesn't shoot off sparks, even though it's full of quartz crystals. The limestone, on the other hand, it's just like this arc reaction to the wand. It's crazy.
Man, anything that like puts the like Tiamat, like Inanna, I like at the forefront, like it gets my attention. Like, okay, now like like when you honor the woman.
Blown. Like what? Like look at the crystal. That is like a granite or basalt piece.
This is a granite. Sure. There's so much quartz in that, it's crazy.
With Quetzalcoatl and AKA the
the helmet.
The Naga.
Same hat on the snake as Isis sports and Horus wears. I think that's the depiction of the halo. That's like the
There was so much goddess worship too that, like, things that are coming to the surface when they have to do with the woman and the goddess worship. I'm like more interested because they really tried their damnedest to remove that from history.
Well, look at Mecca. I mean, so you go to Mecca if you're Muslim, you go there for your Hajj, usually at the end of July, beginning of August. It's incredibly hot in Saudi Arabia at that point in time, for sure. But everybody goes to Mecca, and in the middle of Mecca is what is called the Kaaba, and the Kaaba basically stands for cube, and it's this big black cube building. And you go in there and you circle it 7 times counterclockwise. So here's your Saturnian aspect, the rings of Saturn. And then eventually you work your way up to the eastern corner, and on the eastern corner is this giant silver yoni, and in it is this chunk of meteorite that came from Sirius. And so you have the yoni giving birth to the star seed in this giant black Saturnian cube building. But what's interesting about the Kaaba is it was actually commissioned by the Queen of Sheba as a goddess temple. And so the whole thing, is this goddess and seed worship, but it's being disguised, under Islam. And
Didn't Abraham have something to do with that too?
Later on, yes, but the origin of it comes from the Queen of Sheba. She was the one who commissioned it to be built. And so again, goddess worship, hidden in plain sight, right there, and it's fascinating. I'm super fascinated by it.
Listen, they say, like, I'm not about idol worship. But like literally, I take that back. Like, goddess worship. I'm starting to, like, I feel like encouraging it, or like just honoring women in general. Like, come on. I can't believe they pulled this off.
Right. Well,
I think it's just like segregation, though. Like, at the end of the day, you're either segregating one way or the other. It's either women or men. It's not both. So, like, for true equal, like, to move forward, we truly have to look at this.
We need another unity project. Yes.
Yeah. This is like the whole thing. Oops.
I'm curious about the real quick. Sorry to change the subject. I'm curious about the phosphorescence in these. Has any of this been tested for uranium?
Yes. I got a Geiger meter
radium.
Here.
Or radium potential?
No, you're uranium, because you see a lot of
there's no ticking on any Geiger.
Who will go to these when somebody sells their house and it's a estate sale, and they will try and find all this old glasswork.
Uranium dishware. It's a thing. It's beautiful.
It will glow green just like this.
Yep.
And so I'm
But the thing with that is
it's coming from.
It doesn't hold its glow for this long. Uranium will glow, but not like this.
It doesn't glow very long. It will only glow under the light when you have the light.
Yeah,
you're charging these up with your light, and then we're seeing the after effect. But uranium,
right? But I have uranium here in its unpurified, out of the ground form, and it definitely glows, but only just for a second. And it also makes my Geiger counter tick, and this doesn't. So there's definitely no uranium on these things.
And there's certain ones that are also red, yellow, and blue, and that it seems that it actually is infused with some of them in the crystals, while other ones seems like it was painted off, and like the ones that were in water seems to have eroded off somewhat, but it's wild. And that you were the one that discovered that these artifacts actually glowed.
Yeah, the as far as the luminescence properties, yes, the phosphorescent glow was actually discovered by a friend of mine. He swore that he saw these things glow, and he had a reptile light, and but it wasn't very powerful. And I got one, and I couldn't really see it, and I'm like, no, I don't think so. And then we tried one of these really bright LED lights, and that's when. Because it takes quite a bit of power to get them to not the green and the blue, but the phosphorescence like this. I'll show you.
Well, the ancients would have charged these up in the sun and then used them.
No, that's impossible, because the half-life is so short. You would never be able to see it long enough and tell the sun to go down. So they obviously had a way to put the
Charge
light
them.
into these things, and they obviously had an effect. The thing is, if they were all limestone or this, quartz calcite combination, like this guy here, which is still another form of limestone, I believe that this stuff all is found near a pyramid. And so if these pyramids were bringing in, and if you look at what the Mayans, well, what they say the Mayans coated their temples with, I don't believe it was the Mayans who built those temples, like Tikal and stuff like that. Uh, but if you look at what they covered it with, it was a type of limestone, and they made it into like a, not a mortar, but it was a what did they call it? A stucco.
Geopolymer of sorts. Yeah.
They call it a stucco. And so
The
that
stucco
stucco is lime.
between the geopolymer blocks usually. And
Dude,
then
I tell everyone on my show, I'm like, whoa, careful when you swing around the word geopolymer. You might create a war in my chat.
It's all about research. But they also had, was it schist? No, the
I had the schist once. It wasn't good.
No, not schist. What the pyramids were originally covered in, the
limestone.
Well, no, you're talking about in Central America and
Central America, Mexico.
So they had mica in all the
mica. There we go. Thank you.
Everywhere.
Mica.
All the mica came out of Nicaragua. So it's like, how did they travel with that? I mean, there's massive amounts of mica, and we know that is it Tikal or Tiwanaku? One of the two. It's not Tiwanaku.
Teotihuacan,
where it's Teotihuacan, where it's the temple of the sun, the moon, and it's like the whole solar system. Basically, it looks like a circuit board. But that entire central plaza, excuse me, which was all covered in mica, was also all covered in water, and so that was all a water plaza. And so the mica and the water would create. I mean, that's fascinating because mica in water will create arsenic.
Huh.
And so this is
freaking helicopter. Is that what we have there?
It's a timepiece.
Or clock? What? Oh, definitely watch. Definitely timepiece. 2 hands. Good call.
But for what purpose? Because obviously it doesn't move on its own.
No idea.
So is that an add-on at a later point? Or yeah, interesting. Have you ever been to the sites where these are coming from at all?
Nope, not yet. I was invited to come down with Gen 6, but my wife was pregnant, and I passed the opportunity because, well, I'm not going to leave her home alone and go to a foreign country that's very dangerous with cartel, and
especially around Jalisco. Holy smokes.
Yeah, and sending the amount that I have, it's just not a good idea, and that's still what's kept me from there. I have the open opportunity to go down there to the cave right now. I'm thinking about doing so. I've got a couple scientists that want to confirm the site, and I would like to be there for that, and it would be a great final chapter of my book.
Oh, I want to be invited, but I would want to remote view it beforehand to see if I should go.
Okay. Well,
You could
do
do
that,
both.
Julia. And can you make it and plan it for like November of this year when it's cold in Canada so I can take a trip to Mexico with you?
Let's do a docu-series.
100%. We'll join you.
Yeah, it's
we're just gonna go hang out on the beach at Cancun and drink mojitos.
Definitely not that part of Mexico, unfortunately. Yeah, it's definitely not that part of Mexico.
They just opened a train that goes through most of all the ancient sites in Mexico now, and so
through the Yucatan from Cancun to Tulum. Yeah,
super amazing.
Unfortunately, these places are far away from there as well.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually only about 2.5-3 hours from Mexico City, so it's not too bad for Tula. But for Abuelos Jalisco, it's multiple cartel checkpoints, and it's about 6 hours, and that's another story.
So Tula is the safest one, and Tula is where most of your artifacts came from, and has the cave with the elongated skulls carved in, correct?
Correct.
And it's close to Mexico City, which has Teotihuacan, City of the Gods.
City is fascinating. I wonder how many cave systems are in and around,
We're
the
planning
lake.
a trip.
You see this type of carving right here? You can actually see burrs and stuff like this was burned in there. You see that?
Wild, yes. Like laser etched almost.
Plasma.
Right?
There's a piece, not a piece, but there's a site
Wild.
in Peru in the Sacred Valley that looks like this, where it looks like somebody took a lightsaber and just, carved these
And what sort of language?
wavy lines and shapes into the rock, and it's crazy because it's melted into the rock. It's like, how are they doing this?
Okay, I don't know how to say this, Mike. I love you. I love what you're doing and everything, but I get such bad energy off of some of these pieces, and I don't know what to do about it. Why?
It's because it's the fallen angels. This is the duality. I mean, this is the darker side of our duality being shown. The Old Testament, the things that Jesus came to put his Church of Transfiguration in front of, to never allow to do what they did again to our genetics and our DNA, to abuse the creations like they did. That's why it's dark, because this is pre-flood, and so anything in, this was all completely destroyed for a reason.
No, but I get such a variety, because some of there are some pieces that I get like a strong, like, boom, hit on, but there's some that I get like such like horrific things. Like for me, it's sometimes hard to watch.
Bad
some of it's
things
straight up
happen.
demonic looking,
Right? Like there's histories of genocide.
But when you look at yourself in the mirror and you smile, it's beautiful, right? But then when you look in the mirror, like, you're very upset at someone driving very
I like darkness. Like, this is what gets me. I fuck with darkness. I love me some darkness.
We just don't need to be summoning no actual demon demigods through some portal and some whistles and a dark black mirror and the table of Quetzalcoatl and Cthulhu.
Cthulhu, yeah.
Well, thank you.
You just reminded me, thank you, of the scrying mirror. So the movie I love to love on and hate, The Last Jedi, where it has that scene where Rey falls down into the pit and she comes across a scrying mirror or a scrying wall and asks, show me who my parents were. And it goes through that whole snap sequence where it's her mirrored a million times. So she's like looking into an infinity mirror, and she finally comes up to the reality of the scrying mirror, and she sees herself, which is, obviously what you would see in a scrying mirror. But scrying mirrors are really amazing, especially around Beltane when, the magic is thick, and so you would want to scry and figure out, the next phases forward. So to see a scrying mirror being used in this kind of artifact is even more fascinating. It might not even been used as a scrying mirror. It might have been used as a regular mirror, but it does seem like a visual portal for sure.
On the back of this holder,
I'm going with portal for sure, and it's got to activate something. Some of these other artifacts, I swear to God, Mike, like,
I mean, they're holding it like up to the sun. You see that?
So what they would be channeling the energy from the sun, and that black
redirecting it maybe
plate.
The sun was powering
that radiant energy. Interesting.
What's
that
one
I haven't taken it out in the sun yet,
thing called that he was holding up there, and that's what was charged by the sun?
Possible.
Not the.
Sorry, what?
There's the 3 different ancient Egyptian pieces, and the figure in that last image with the sun charging it, he was holding it up. It's like the walking stick staff one, not the
you're talking like from Indiana Jones?
No, from ancient Egyptian like depictions. There's why am I having
they have it's not a staff because it never touches the ground, but it has like a crook on one end and then like a snake head on the other end.
Yeah, you got it. Like
but it never touches the ground. It's
like
not,
a golf club on the top and then the bottom like 2 spikes. And
yeah, correct.
the fact that that's what he was holding up to charge with the sun, and the fact you say that they never touch it to the ground, very interesting. And could it be that you charge by the sun, and then when you ground it, it releases the energy or the charge? That thing definitely with the Black Mirror and potentially the Ouija board looking thing and the 5D alien chess game probably will activate an alien ghost for you.
I mean, it's pretty trippy, right?
Is that a piece of crystal or?
It's an amethyst in there. Yeah.
That's amethyst.
I'll see if I can get a better shot here.
Pretty well polished. That's amazing.
Have you guys ever seen those videos where it's like almost like a ring cam and like some type of darker force like hits them?
Yeah.
Anyone?
Yeah, I know.
I'm not.
Maybe.
No, have you seen it? It's like a security cam, but where it shows like another force from another dimension, almost like a darker force, like just straight throws them and levels them out. Like they slide down a hallway.
I'm not sure.
Your stuff is kind of reminding me of some of the pieces I have as well. This is a rainbow quartz. I wish I had a light I could shine through it, but it's super beautiful. Oh, well, yeah, anyway. Well, you can kind of see it. Maybe I can get that light to go through.
Probably beautiful when you put a light behind it.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to do. Maybe I could use my headlamp. What did I just do with that here earlier?
A headlamp underneath it would work well.
I'll just use my cell phone. Yeah,
absolutely underneath.
Wow, is that jade? Mike, is that jade?
No, it's calcite, banded green.
Wow.
Calcite. Yeah.
Beautiful.
So yeah, you can kind of see.
All right.
Oh, you're all good.
Back to the calcite one, please. Does that one glow?
Oh yeah, it glows red.
Can you hold your flashlight up underneath it with the light off so we can?
You can see the banded calcite here really more clearly.
Wow.
So calcite is like alabaster, and so this comes from deep mineral springs, and so it's the buildup over millennia of the.
That's
the
a
salts.
big piece of calcite.
No. No, I mean these are calcite here too.
Oh wow.
And these are 50, 60 pounds, you know.
Wow.
I like the striations in that. Interesting.
I had one that was like 80.
Knew how to work that material, that's for sure.
But that one there, the red one, if you can put the flashlight underneath its chin and hold it up to it for us.
Like for me, it's like the consciousness of this though. Like you guys, seriously, what is this trying to teach us though? Okay, like wait, you're advanced, you're trying to teach us what? To bow down. Wait, what? What is this? What is this teaching?
The truth shall set us free.
Is it artistic representation or
I'm sorry, I just get really passionate. I get really passionate of like,
or was it documenting
you should almost
Nephilim interaction?
You should almost like record what is on each one of these written down, and so then we can start deciphering, you know,
well,
what the message is.
So what's really cool, I guess you weren't here when I was talking about it, but I met a professor down in San Jose, and he right now is not teaching, and he's only tutoring PhD and doctoral students. And so he has a lot of extra time right now and a laboratory, and he's very fond of the project, and his specialty is AI. And so he is, you know, he asked me what my goal of this all was. You know, he's like, now that you know that it's real, what do you want to do? And I told him, I was like, I really want to understand this language and try to maybe catalog it and document it better. And, you know, he's like, that's something we can absolutely do. And he broke it down. He's like, I'm going to need $10,000 for a server so we can get the AI going. We're going to need to lease this, and this, and then I'm going to need to write the software or the you know. AI thing, and then we got.
Is this guy
infernal-
trustworthy? Whoa.
Yeah. He's a PhD and a professor for.
That doesn't mean shit. Come on, Mike.
But he's also a good friend of mine. He like one of his best friends.
You got to
from
invite
high
him
school.
on. Let's please schedule a podcast with him. We'd love to talk and maybe help give ideas.
I mean, the guy's extremely private about this topic, and so you know, he's very secure oriented. The stuff he works on in AI and things of that nature is pretty tough. That's why we have to buy our own server and whatnot. And so his theory is we need to turn this into a nonprofit organization and a trust. And so me, my business partner and a good friend are all going to donate good chunks of our collections to this trust.
Mike? Okay, go ahead. Finish. I got to say something after.
Yeah, go ahead.
What I was going to say was, I have faith. You're going to be misled, but I have faith because the plants are going to guide you. They are. I know it sounds crazy, and it's crazy to say that. And you have gone through this rapid ascension, right? Where you were taken and you were like violently taken out of what you thought was reality. And you were put in this position that was so freaking opposite of what you believed in, that went against everything you believed in. And it got you to ignite this pathway of like, look into the research. Look, I know you're all about evidence and the information that supports that, but look deeper, Mike. You know why? Because the way you retain information and the way that you say it is powerful, and it helps unlock things, and it helps do things, it helps change things within their own DNA and within people's own path. So you are on this journey that you're going to be freaking rocketed way far past this. And I see where your trajectory is. Okay. But I'm talking to you here now, what you know now. Right. So I'm delicate with it. Okay. But I don't know. I just feel like be wary of that guy, but like
absolutely. He comes under extreme recommendation. It took over a year before I could get a sit down with him. You know, it's not something that just blossomed overnight. It's someone that obviously my good friend has known since high school, and he's been to Burning Man and done art installations, and he's on a different level in terms of, you know, most college professors and people who are academically associated. He's also not working for any university currently and has no ties to any university, which is a good thing. He also has a private lab, and you know, there's multiple things. I could go on about this, and this isn't really the forum to do that, but nonetheless, I've definitely vetted it out, and everything's going to be done through an attorney and through proper channels.
Listen, Mike. All I'm saying, like, future Mike, like, listen to me, like,
your eyes crossed, and Julia's remote view prediction feeling on the matter is something.
Mike, all I'm going to say, Mike, what I'm saying to you now is conscious Mike, like 2024, January 31st, Mike, is you, is that you just, what are you guys saying?
Mic drop.
Oh my gosh. That, like, listen, I'm going to say one thing. The plants are going to guide you. I want you to know the difference, okay? I want you to know the difference, because there's other things that are going to try to guide you.
Oh,
okay. Absolutely. And I'm just saying, the plant, I have faith in you. The plants are going to guide you.
They already are. Why do you think I'm drawing cannabis?
Exactly. But you're on this rapid. Exactly. But I'm saying you're on this rapid, like, it's not common. Like, you guys, Mike's journey, it wasn't just like, it was rapid. This guy, he was taken from 0 to 100. It's such a rapid rate, and it's amazing, and it's astounding. And I'm just saying, listen, like, you're going to be misdirected. And I know, listen, I have to say this. You're going to be misdirected. You're going to be led down to wrong people and wrong paths. Remember, I told you this, okay?
Yep.
You're going to be, there's going to be some facetious motherfuckers, and there's going to be a lot of bad energy coming your way. You're going to navigate it, okay? It's going to feel overwhelming, but you're going to come out on top. But remember, I told you, just be freaking wary, okay? I have to tell you this. And the plants are going to guide you. Listen to them and know the difference.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and that's what's got me here in the first
Was
place
that
was the
alien
plants.
or predator on the back?
Yeah,
of
go
that?
back up to that last piece, the
Yeah.
back piece that totally looks like H.R. Giger's alien, like to a T.
So I have to interject on the note of the plants guiding you. We need to schedule another episode solely on setting up some experiments, testing those artifacts, especially the pyramid ones, on the extra or the preservation of fruits, plants, and setting up for experiments for the spring to try to test some of those artifacts with electroculture, because that will prove right there if you can 3 to 5x your growth or the length, the longevity of a fruit in one of those pyramids. That's
He's my cousin, but he's my cousin's son, so that would make him my first cousin or second cousin, once from something along these lines. But my cousin did experiments with PVC pyramids over plants. And so he was growing broccoli and carrots and something else. And he had his test plot, and then he had the pyramid plot. And the stuff that he grew under the pyramids was like 3 times the yield of what was in the test plot. And this was with a non-conducting pyramid. And so the Russians did all these pyramid
Oh yeah, I remember
tests
seeing
well,
this.
and they would put dull blades inside of these pyramids and pull them out, and they would be incredibly sharpened. And they ended up putting all these blocks, these cement and brick blocks in there as well to charge them. And then they put those into jail cells, like in the walls in jail cells, to see if it would have any effect on the mentality of the prisoners. And so really, really fascinating stuff, the pyramid stuff that they were doing, all the pyramid studies. And having been inside of the Great Pyramid twice now, well, actually 3 times, there's energy there. I mean, it's still there. It's very obvious that there's this energy vortex there.
Yeah, it just doesn't have the arc in there to amplify it, I think.
Correct,
Is essentially
correct.
the difference.
Absolutely.
But when you go down into the subterranean chamber and you go down into the end of the dead end shaft and you're the only person down there, you hear the vibration of the pyramid.
Do you pick up on any water? Like, what do you pick up on when you're down there? You don't hear a freaking thing. Do you pick up on anything?
You hear like yourself and vibration. There is water down there. There's a well shaft in the subterranean. Nobody talks about. It goes down 3 layers, and you can see the tunnels that go off from it. One of the tunnels heads toward the Osiris shaft, or approximately where it is, because it's on the causeway between the Great Pyramid and the Pyramid of Menkaure. And when you go down into the Osiris shaft, you're down
100 feet.
It's a little over 100 feet, but it's like 5 layers down. And the water level is, 5 feet high at that point. And Zahi Hawass, for I think it was NBC or ABC, like in the early 90s, late 80s, when they were excavating that site, they had pumped all the water out so that they could look at the green, it's like citron or granite box that's in there. And they opened it up. Oh, there's nothing to see here, blah, 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 blah. But what they didn't bother to tell anybody is that box, the stone that is in that box comes from Lebanon. So how it got to Egypt, good question, on a boat, quite possibly. But it doesn't fit down any of the shafts that go down into the Osiris shaft basement, into that area.
Weird.
So how did they get it down there? And it's a solid piece. It's not like they broke it into 5 pieces or 6 pieces. It's one solid piece. But there are 2 other tunnelways that lead off from this area. And so was it brought through them? And then the question is,
symbols right there.
Where do those go? So you have Virgo on the left. I'm just kidding. But it does kind of look like Virgo.
Yeah, very similar.
But then where do all these ancient symbols come?
Could have also been, I believe I've seen it represented something similar in a Templar or a Jesuit symbol before. And then that's straight alchemy symbols right there.
Oh, yeah. Wow. Well, that's interesting. Alchemy, alchem, right? This is where this is going back to Kemet.
Yeah.
Chemotherapy, chemistry. All these words come out of the. It's more of the Arabic going back to the ancient Suf, because the Greeks during the Ptolemaic period, they really destroyed a lot of the ancient history of chem.
The golden age of Arabic.
And even Ptolemy, it's like, was Ptolemy a person or was that a title? Because Ptolemy comes from Ptah. So it's just like, wait a second. Ptah is not a Greek god. He's
Egyptian.
He's the creator, Gametian god. So what is Ptolemy? And, obviously the Greeks conquered Egypt. Alexander the Great did so in 332. Well, 332 is 8, so there's your magical number right there of symbology. And then you fast forward, get back to Star Wars again, and you get into the Ashoka series, and at the end when they meet up with Thrawn, coming back from the unknown territories, his army is the army of the 332. There's 8 again, and he's from the 8th ascending family of the Chiss. And so 332, 8, all these things. His captain's name is Captain Enoch. They all have golden faces. It's just, there's so much symbology there. That's just totally.
Wait, hold on. Time out. To all the viewers, if anybody comes across any information on lion-headed beings, I want you to email me at Julia. Wait, it's Julia@JuliaKamman.com. Lion beings. Hit me up. That's like, I'm serious about that. But anyway, sorry, Hans, go on.
Well, no, you're great, because I was about to segue into Star Trek, where there is a lion-based character that's like a captain seen in the background, and so it's interesting that we have these Leonids being portrayed even in Star Trek. So yeah, anyway, just kind of curiosity.
I'm not going to explain fully why I said that. I've had an experience with one, and so therefore it triggered my soul. Okay, maybe I'll get into that publicly another time, maybe never, but just know of me trying to differentiate certain energies and what I think and feel and what may or may not be. So we're all just trying to figure out where we're at, who we are, and where we want to go. So
exactly. This is why I always bring up TVs and movies, because there's so much esoteric and occulted knowledge being shared in movies and TV shows that we totally miss because we're not looking for these signs and symbols. And so, this is why I do my whole piece on symbology and the magic of symbols. It's like we need to start paying attention to the spells and symbology and the spell casting around us, because it's everywhere. And the question is why? Why are we being surrounded by symbology and spell casting? What are they trying to keep at bay? I mean, it's especially in the age of the internet, it's like they're really trying to get ahead of this.
There's something about us, you guys, humanity as a whole, our subconscious propels what happens in this realm, in this reality. Okay, so you'll see things that isn't just a symbol or whatever, but what we think about, we literally bring about. And if you can have an entire population, and that's where the Bible, the rewriting of the Bible and getting them to believe this thing you're trying. How do you get a whole, like, if I came to you like earlier before of like, how do I get entire population, entire planet to be against women? If I come to you now and I'm like, well, how do I
said, gangster rap music, that's exactly what they're doing
right
with Hollywood. Sorry, Mike, that last piece, was that a comb or what? Is that just a
I thought it was a whistle, but it isn't. Yeah,
I believe it's this type of skull here.
Once again, alien predator steez. Potentially. That's wild.
God, I have the Giger's Necronomicon up on my bookshelf behind me.
But sorry, just like while Julie was talking there, I was amazed the last several artifacts you held up were straight up alchemy symbols, and then what with add-ons, like it's like a script writing or like literally procedures, an equation.
Hold
Alchemy
on.
equations is what
Go back to that phase.
Wild.
So this symbol right here is the second phase of the sun. Okay, this is Ra. This is the adolescent, uncontrollable sun, and it's always a circle. Usually, it's a circle with a black dot in the middle and 3 rays coming out of it. This is part of a lecture I'm doing about Egypt. Yeah, the 5 phases of the sun.
What is this one?
This is also Ra. I mean, it's a continuation of Ra. And so you have Kepher, which is the dung beetle pushing the dung onto the hill in the morning. Right, Kepher. So the dung beetle is also known as the scarab. And what's interesting is this is Horus on the rising, and this is where horizon comes from in English, basically, or hours, Horus, right? So these are the hours of the day, the Horuses of the day. The second phase of the sun is, mid-morning to noon, and that's Ra. And everybody thinks the sun is just Ra, or Amun-Ra. Well, Amun-Ra is actually 2 phases of the sun put together. The third phase of the sun is Un, which is just the circle with the dot in the middle. And Un is where we get the word noon or afternoon from. It also could be pronounced On. And this was the name for what the Greeks called the city of Heliopolis. Heliopolis obviously is a Greek name, but the original name of the city was On. And it was the city of the sun. And so then that's the wise sun. And then you have the wiser, or the son of enlightenment. And this is called Aten. And so Akhenaten, changed his name from Imhotep, or Amun-Hotep, which basically means the altar of the hidden sun, to Akhenaten, which is, if Ankh is the key of life and Aten is the enlightenment, it's the key of enlightenment, basically, is what Akhenaten means. And Tutankhamun also falls into that. And then you have Amun, which is the hidden, or the hidden sun, the 5th phase. And, for the Coptics and for the Christians, this is where the word Amen came from. So if you're giving your prayer, you're going to say at the end of it, Amen. Hopefully God or the Creator will hear the prayer, but in reality, you're hiding it. You're burying it, so nobody hears it. You're putting it into darkness or into the hidden. And so to talk about things being, completely flipped or ulto or on top of each other. But to see these sun symbols, this is quite fascinating.
Like the accuracy of what they've depicted.
Yeah.
That's whoever, if someone was to conceive a hoax of this nature, to create so many accurate things on that level, would be Einstein level genius, in my opinion, because it's deep, like to carve it all, to
deep, and a lot of this knowledge isn't very well known. I mean,
that's what I mean. You have to dig deep for it.
This is I mean, everybody's like, occult, oh, that's cultish. It's like, no, occult just means hidden. And esoteric, when you ever hear this word, it means esoteric is symbology that's designed, or phrasing or words or whatever, that are designed for only the people that are in the know to understand them. And so that's where the esoteric knowledge comes from. Or occult symbology is hidden symbology. It has nothing to do with darkness or the devil or any of these things. It just has this meaning of hidden. It's a hidden knowledge or a hidden symbology. And we're surrounded by this all day long. I mean, Google Play is, if you flip it vertically, it is the symbol of it's one of Solomon's symbols to basically not only invoke a demon but trap a demon, and especially the demon of
really
Satan. Oh yeah.
Google's Play is.
Yeah, let me.
I've been saying those look like straight up high tech technology for a long time now. And then we have, shout out to Mystery Ian in the chat, talking about how AI, you're literally one of the commands is like invoke, and it's like you're invoking this like digital demon or entity.
Whoa! What's he saying? What's he saying about invoking?
AI. We're talking about sigils and symbols. Let me bogart the share here,
dude. Let me bogart with the sigils and microchips.
let me grab the controls here, and I'll show you what I mean by the Google Play, and you'll just be like, yeah. Hold on a second, Mike. Do you mind if I
Do it?
Grab the spotlight here for a second?
I don't care. I'm just showing stuff.
No, I love this stuff.
We love you, Mike. We love you, Mike. I love you. I love you, Mike.
This is part of my symbology lectures. So
your wife's a Gemini too, right? You guys are both Geminis.
Hans, sorry, you gotta hit present. I can't see it yet. To bring
I haven't presented yet. I'm just trying to find the slide. Hold on a sec. Window, there it is. Boom. Share. Did I lose you guys?
Nope.
Oh, okay.
Everybody
So the Google Play logo here on the left, if you flip it, you get the inner shape of the sigil of Lucifer. The sigil
oh my God, Solomonic
it's
sigil.
Right. It's in our faces all day long, and none of us even recognize it.
No, but what's to say that Lucifer isn't like a Libran Venusian like female energy that they're inverting for their own command?
Of course. All of these
possible,
colors.
But I just have to state these are literally Solomon's seals of summoning demons and angels.
Hardcore,
right?
hardcore.
Oh, dude, BurnEye, I do a whole thing on circuit board, connecting circuit boards and demonic sigils. Like,
yeah, brilliant. Yeah, all of these colors are also alchemical colors, and so you go through, basically the water, the earth, and the fire, and then you get like this yellow as well, this yellowing.
Ooh.
These are the alchemical symbols, and we were going back to goddess symbols. The biggest one that is totally missed by all of us is this one. It's the sacred feminine. It's the key of life. And Mike's been showing all these amazing onks in the collection there, which are really fascinating. But if you really look at this is what you're looking at, right? And so this symbol has been repurposed and usurped over time.
Interesting.
Quite literally represents the womb, the vaginal canal, and the ovaries. That's what the Ankh is. It's the key of life, right? And it's interesting that even today we use this exact symbol as the symbol for the feminine or for the female, but it also ends up in the cross. I mean, there's so much going on with these symbols. Speaking of alchemical, the only one I'm missing here is the yellow, but these are the different phases of alchemy and the processes. And so when you burn,
I need you to send me this one.
When you burn the earth, right, and the water, you have the water, the earth, you have the distilled water, which either comes from your own urine because your body processes water and distills it, and that's what urine is, even though there's all sorts of other particulates in urine. Or you collect dew from the leaves of trees in the morning. That is your sacred distilled water of alchemy. Then you have the prima materia, the rich earth.
Sorry, before you move on, I just have to interject. There's actually a third option which I'm teaching, which I originally learned from Mehran Keshi, which is the jar of life, or the cup of life, as he calls it, or just basically your anode, your cathode, and your salt water, the colloidal silver or monoatomic gold that I'm showing and teaching.
So yeah, this is where, okay, now I can actually see what I'm looking at. These are all the different phases and colors that your prima materia goes through when it's introduced to the sacred water and the fire. And depending on, what you go through, you either end up with a red element, a black element, and then eventually you end up with the white monoatomic elements. And that's super fascinating. But we also find this in color theory, because when you mix red, green, and blue as colored light, you get the white, the bright, brilliant light in the middle. Okay. But if you mix these as pigments, the black, the cyan, the magenta, the yellow, you end up with this rich black, basically, when you mix pigment colors. And so light or pigment, as above, so below. You have the light of the sky creating all these elements into sunlight or the light of itself, and then you have the pigments of the earth combining to create the prima materia, or the dirt of the earth. And there's so much going on there. Anyway, I thought I should share that. But yeah, thank you. Awesome, good stuff.
I appreciate that, Hans, because that's actually a major part of my work, and we're going to have to do a couple hours of private recording next, specifically on the alchemical colors and transmutation charts, as it's what I've been reproducing in all my electrolysis experiments, reactions, as well as connecting it to Sir Isaac Newton's transformation or transmutation color chart, and what Jeremiah is going to help me in publishing a new oxide and hydride colored chart of alchemy. Exactly.
We should talk to Johnny Enoch and get Timothy Hogan on your podcast. He's the Grand Master of the Knights Templar, but he is probably, outside of somebody like Jay Widener, one of the most prolific knowledge bases for alchemy out there. And
I was on a 3-way call with him the other day. I think hopefully you're able to facilitate that.
Amazing. And Tim, I'm sure I could also reach out to him. We both can. Let's gang up on Tim. He actually helped write one of the chapters in my Symbology book with me about the Knights Templar. So I'm super blessed by his knowledge. And he was on a podcast with Johnny that we did, and I actually posed the question about the Pharaoh and asked him, obviously a lot of this knowledge came to me through the Rosicrucians, but I wanted his aspect of it from a Templar. And he nailed it. He's like, yeah, there were no kings that were ever crowned unless they were anointed by the high priestesses of Isis.
Wow, dude, you just brought a whole newfound respect. Next time I'm on 3-way with Timothy Hogan, I'm going to have a whole newfound respect for what you just dropped.
Tim is on it. I really appreciate him.
But you should educate them on who Johnny even is. I don't think most people know.
I know.
So Johnny Enoch, you can find a lot of his stuff on Gaia, but he's kind of in essence, he's a book of knowledge on.
Yeah, you gotta wait, hold on, Hans. You gotta understand, these people, like, they hear Gaia and they immediately discredit the individual. That person's immediately discredited because they're like, "What, Gaia? Okay, I can't trust you."
He has a lot of stuff on there.
Esoteric book of knowledge, wisdom, Johnny Enoch.
He's done so much work around what Manly P. Hall talks about. He was a long life friend of Jordan Maxwell before he passed away. And so he holds this incredible knowledge about a lot of these subjects. And he's interviewed me several times over the last 4 years. I've grown to, respect a lot of what he's done. And then he brought, Timothy Hogan into the mix, and this has really changed a lot for me as well, because Tim's knowledge is just out of the park, and I really want to go to Egypt with them in March and just follow them around and hear a whole different side, all these Egyptian sites as well, because I have the Commission knowledge and background, as well as a lot of the knowledge that Abdel Hakim Ayawan taught Yusuf and Patricia and Stephen Mailer. And so I have a lot of this knowledge of Egypt, but to see it also from a totally different perspective, I would be blown away to do that. It would be so amazing to go there.
We are going to do it all.
And
we're
Tim.
Projecting the law of attraction. We're going to make it happen. And we're going to look at the yellow and the red two stones ingrained there in the back.
Speaking of Knights Templar, you have a Templar cross on the back of this item. So how fascinating.
Okay, I apologize to all the audience. Okay, I have been pigging the heck out. Okay, I've been snacking so hard, you guys. I was doing all these other shows today. I really didn't get a chance to eat. Okay, So I don't know why I'm begging for no judgment. I'm just trying to let you know where I'm at, which is I'm snacking. Okay. I need the calories. And that's all I'm here to say. That's it. That's it.
No judgments. So this box right here, was there a pine cone in it? Can you put one of those?
Was that the pine cone box?
Like,
I'm not sure if this is the place where the scrying mirror was at, but I would think if I had a scrying mirror, I would want a cipher nearby. Yeah. So my first inclination when you put that scrying modality, like that scrying mirror into the base, I immediately thought, listen, okay, I don't like how that looks at all. But I would think where I'm going to set the scrying mirror in would have to do with the cipher. I would just have it correlated, but that's just me.
I resonate with that and using a positive spellcast purpose.
Even Siddhartha used the scrying mirror, but more as the surface of water, where he saw his own reflection, but then he saw Mara, his alter ego, his demon, and then they fight in this reality, even though it's all in his mind. It all plays out in a scrying mirror environment of water, and so it's interesting that water is often involved with so much of this.
Well, the water reflects back, so you've got the two mirrors creating that infinite fractal, and that's why it's always depicted as like you going into that infinite fractal, because you literally are creating this fractal dimension hologram, I guess.
I almost rented a house here that had an infinite mirror in it, and I didn't know it until you opened like the closet door in the bathroom, and there was another mirror inside of the closet door. And the second I opened it, it was like, oh, we're not renting this house. It's creating that, the infinite vortex. It's like, you don't know what you're calling in one of those levels of vortices. You just don't.
Okay, this can also be applied to dating, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. All right. When you're swiping left, all right, when you're Netflix and chilling, I want you to know you're signing up for something way out of your sphere. When you're intimate with someone, there's much more absorbed. All right, I don't want to be Debbie Downer about this, but it's just how it is.
Wow. And we are missing puzzle pieces.
And these just blow my mind every time.
So is that a serpent wrapped around the top of the elongated skull? What is going on there?
Yeah, he goes from here is the head, and his tail goes into the thing, and then wraps around, and then comes up down into there, and I think that's.
So there's another piece in your collection. It's like it's a statue with a sunken face inside of a helmet or a skull, or not a skull. It's like a helmet or a headdress. I saw it earlier.
One or a crystal skull?
Over here?
No, it's like it's not on the shelf. No, it's kind of tall. It looks like a space mask, but it isn't. That one right there. Boom. Okay, so there's a piece in. It's in one of the museums in Lima, in Peru, but it's a gourd, and inside of the gourd is it's so similar to this. It's like a sunken head inside of the gourd that's looking out through a mask. Very, very, very similar to this, and so I'm incredibly fascinated.
This piece is crazy because like the helmet was repaired with ancient red glue, and you can see it was cracked initially, but it was pulled out of the ground, repaired, and if the guys break stuff pulling it out, they always super glue it. I find the traces of the super glue. It's very easy, but this is the red glue here, and it's very.
So it's a resin in a sense almost.
Yeah, and it's got organic material. That's the stuff that carbon dates. So maybe they put blood in it or something of that nature. Who knows? It could be the copal resin in there.
Ooh, speaking of blood and
I always feel like the difference in what do you call it, concrete, what they used to do, and how it's a forgotten alchemical process. The difference in the formula has a lot to do, not just the water, but the blood that's implemented in the concrete.
So back to the movies. There's a fascinating movie everybody should watch. I don't know if anybody's seen it. It's called The Red Violin.
Sorry.
And The Red Violin is like one of the most amazing movies, but it deals with the blood of a birthing mother being painted into this violin. And the movie is super amazing. It's a beautiful movie. It goes through the life of the violin. The violin is like the main character of the movie, basically. And so, yeah, super, super amazing movie.
And I like the sounds of it, right? It's like if these walls could talk. Like
right. No, literally. And where this violin, it ends up in like a Sotheby's auction. That's where the movie starts, and it's where it ends. But it goes through the whole life cycle of this violin from when its inception to all the different people that owned it over the course of time and played it. It's yeah. What was this? I Like Everything Everywhere. That also is an amazing movie. Yeah. Super. And good to see Short Round back in a movie. Yeah, finally.
All right, guys, I'm out of here. Thank you so much for having me. I love you. All I have to say is look into the goddess. Look into the goddess. Look into the woman.
Always.
And Nana.
Hear me roar. Nana. Athena.
Durga.
I love you guys.
Cheers.
Love you, Julia.
Have a great evening.
Thank you for joining us. Everybody go subscribe to Julia Kamman if you haven't already, as well as Mike at Alien Carvings, I think, on YouTube.
At Alien Carvings or aliencarvings.com. Yeah.
And Hans at
Megamist.
Megamist.com.
Megalithic Mysteries. That's what it's
like the game.
Mist, yeah, great game.
Right. It made me think of that.
Good call there. That's actually an amazing game. Speaking of symbology, that whole game is like riddled with symbology. So
totally.
That was a Super Nintendo RPG, correct?
No,
it was originally on computers. No, it was like originally started on Mac.
What?
Hey, you buy like a CD ROM and then put it in, and you go. It was a play-by-play, choose your own adventure kind of game.
Choose your own adventure, Steez. Gotcha.
But you had to solve all these mysteries in order to do anything in the game, and
it's on Steam now. You can go back and
really. I would love to go back.
Yeah.
Recently, I played the Oregon Trail. You died from dysentery.
Dysentery.
That still exists, actually. Yeah, it does. I grew up in the
No, you can emulate it. All the old Apple games you can emulate now on Steam Decks or whatever. So.
Oh, awesome! I have an old Famicom NES emulator, so I have like original Mike Tyson's Punch Out and Pong and Legend of Zelda, Metroids.
Hard to beat the classics.
Yeah, the games suck.
I'm gonna have to do a gaming stream. We're going to have to do a Super Nintendo emulator Twitch stream. We're also going to have to come back and do, before next week, Mike, straight TikTok live on both our TikToks. And Hans, you're going to have to reach out to Eddie Bravo, invite him to Woooo Wednesday, as well as encourage him to also bring...
I need to get a hold of Stefan, because Stefan is what is Eddie Bravo's? It's 10th planet.
Gotcha.
Jiu-jitsu, and he's like hardcore into that. And it's funny, Mike. Actually, I think you know my friend Stefan, but he reached out to me like a year and a half ago about somebody similar to you that was buying up all these artifacts and had this collection. So
it might have been me. You never know.
I've often been curious. He's like, yeah, my friend was doing all this. You guys need to connect. So yeah.
Heck yeah. Always down to talk.
Absolutely. And if you don't mind, also, Mike, potentially reaching out privately and asking your professor friend if he's down to do a private video conversation, just as I would love to get involved as well as give ideas for building this AI database with everything and the symbols there.
Absolutely. Well, no, and that's why we're making a foundation, man, with a nonprofit, because then we can open up that information and share it with all, and have the proper resources and proper things and channels to be able to do all that collaboratively and in a safe environment. And I think that's going to be really great because right now we're all independent and it's hard, you know. So I think we really need a common ground, and there's nothing like that exists. Usually people use universities and stuff like that for this, but unfortunately the universities and the laboratories that are out there are having a hard time being forefront with this information for whatever purposes, and it makes it a taboo or forbidden thing to really get too deep into this. And so yeah, you know.
That's because the halls of quackademia have their very narrow funding. A lot of it deals, sadly, around religious topics, and they don't want to stray outside of those boundaries.
No.
They don't want to stray outside of the timelines. That's why, even though Göbekli Tepe now exists, it's still not accepted.
I think that they're right in terms of when Adam and Eve happened, 6,000-8,000 years ago. But Göbekli Tepe's 13,000 years, and the carbon dates we're getting is around the same, 10 to 20,000 years. And so I believe to say that the previous civilization that's depicted here or talked about in the Sumerian, with Ninhursag raising the Adamu, I think that I think Isis and Ninhursag represent the similar, and this is the Adamu here of the flood. This was before man even was thought of, or before Adam existed.
That's where the word Adam came
from.
Exactly. Yeah. No.
Pre-Adamite.
It makes the whole Genesis project make sense on every level when you look at it that way of thousands of years of refinement.
Well, we weren't born overnight,
folks. the Younger Dryas time frame of 12,000 years ago. Before then, everything was giant mammals, giant reptiles, giant
trees.
Right, so
you still have the redwoods, which are the offspring.
You can even see like Osiris and the Anunnaki. All of them were depicted really large, and you can see here the pharaoh, and these Adamu next to him are not even up to his armpits in height. I mean, this guy's standing up, and so I think this may be Osiris or one of the the pharaohs.
Osiris is the Greek name. His name was Wasir or Usir. Yeah.
Interesting.
So Bu Wizir is the land of Osiris, and this is the band of brothers, this whole area of Giza and the fertility of the Nile. This is all called Bu Wizir. And Wasir is where the word Osiris comes from, the wiser.
Interesting.
Yeah, the Greeks fucked all of, pardon my French, all of ancient Egyptian history. It's really sad. What is this we're looking at? Alchemical symbols here?
Yes, sir. I pulled up the periodic chart of elements in alchemical symbols and seen at least 40 or 50 of them in the different engravings of
so the circle with the dot down from the symbol of the female. What does it say there? I can't read it. I still can't read what it says.
Circle. Which
with
one?
The dot, right to the left of that, where you're. Yep, that one. No,
this
the one. No, to the right of that.
This one?
Yeah.
That's gold. That's gold, and that's the sun.
That's the sun.
Yeah.
That's the gold. Symbol for the sun in ancient Chem. Yeah, that's
there it is.
Yeah, and gold, 100%.
And that's also the symbol in between the two angel wings for the Shamash and the symbol that you see in the Anunnaki stuff here. This symbol right here.
And to the right of that 3 is Saturn, which is even more fascinating. Yeah.
You got the dot within a dot here. I've got a better.
There was one that you showed earlier when I was bringing that up.
Yeah, where's it at? But nonetheless, yeah, the two wingles. Usually it has the circle within a circle.
Well, the circle with the two wings is Saturn. This is always a depiction of Saturn.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Always.
Always.
Yeah,
That makes
exactly.
total sense.
Because the ancients saw Saturn as a winged sun.
And Saturn is also lead, I believe. Lead, the element of lead.
Interesting.
It's the same. Oops, sorry, I put that on full screen. Big screen.
So your other one is still overlapping, but no worries.
This is another. Oops.
And that's also on like an alabaster or a crystalline form. Interesting.
Yeah, everything is crystal based, 100% that we find, of many different types. There is a couple sandstone type pieces, but I think they're also
you have your
crystal based.
your light on this, which is interesting because it's showing that it's kind of like labradorite, where it has like a layer.
The gloss, what they call pearl effect,
refraction,
pearlescence. Yeah, interesting.
You notice the size of this Adamu versus Isis. She's obviously a giant in comparison, also.
Yeah, same sort of ratio size as lots of the Egyptian depictions,
and the Anunnaki. Yeah, and there's that same picture. So it makes total sense. You know, the Nephilim. It says in, I think it's Numbers. Oh, what is it? Numbers 11 or something like that. That you know, in those days, the Nephilim were like giants, and we felt like grasshoppers in their presence, and we were, or something like that.
I was trying to figure out how they slept with women, unless it was like an artificial insemination of sorts.
Well, that's just it. You hit it on the head, Hans. Like people think of these early Egyptians as inbred because they were mating with their brothers and sisters. And how did these gods create? You know, they weren't out there biologically having sex like we do. That was created
this is how they
impregnated them.
It because they didn't have the language to describe what was going on with
genetics and things,
splitting with cells.
Yeah, exactly. Although the diagrams on a lot of these pieces are pretty clear. They definitely could illustrate it better than they could write it. That's for sure.
Right? It's like, it seems like that's what's legitimately depicted in a lot of the carvings that you have.
Even with hieroglyphs, these images, these symbols last forever versus a spoken word or anything along these lines. And I think looking at some of these symbols in you know, this is why I'm saying you need to document all these pieces. I mean, obviously you're kind of doing this right now. We can always go back and, you know, rewatch the videos.
I try to go slow, but no, we're going to put them all into an AI server, and that way we can create reports and summaries and create databases, and I mean, we can have it write books. We could also input other things, like we can put J.J. Hurtak's work in there. We can put different books of the Bible, Quran, etc., and then we can cross-reference, and we can put all those alchemical symbols, etc. Just build this database up with things of interest in this topic, and then correlate the data with it, and possibly get some answers. You know,
let's call it what it is. It's machine learning.
Yes.
What we've been sold as AI is not what actually is happening. And
it's a beautiful thing.
I do a
if it's used properly.
on AI in movies, because the movies are what have sold us AI.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that Fritz Lang's movie Metropolis from the 1920s is one of the first ever visualized automatons. And so it's this female that looks like C-3PO. Mm-hmm. She has the voluptuous body of an automaton or a robot, but her head has the facial expressions of an actual woman. And what's interesting is she's like the first sex bot. If you watch Metropolis, so that's interesting that's the first portrayal of AI. Because how many times does this come back? Well, the next portrayal is Hal in 2001, A Space Odyssey, and Hal's kind of a murderous AI. He doesn't want to break his machine learning programming. He's been programmed to the mission, and anything that goes against the mission, he's going to kill. And so that's Hal. And so then the next version of AI in the movies is C-3PO. And C-3PO is, you know, this being that's kind of an intermediary between human and cyborgs and robotics. Yeah, here I am, C-3PO, you know, human cyborg relations. And so he's kind of a happy-go-lucky robot, and then his companion is R2-D2, who only speaks basic or digital basic, but still has emotions. Both these robots have emotions.
Yeah.
And then you get into the next movie that AI is portrayed in, which is Alien, and you have Ash. And Ash, again, is another murderous AI because he's set to a program, and the program is the crew is expendable. You know, collect the alien entity. And so it's back and forth, and you get up to AI, the actual movie called AI, which was supposed to be a Stanley Kubrick movie, but unfortunately he died before he could make it.
Yeah,
so
imagine that. He's an
Spielberg
interesting fellow there.
And you have David, who's a child that will never grow up. Well, what type of people on this planet want children that will never grow up? Well, we'll just leave that to the imagination. And then David's best friend in the movie is a sex bot. You know, he's a gigolo. So it's just like we're right back at it. But then flash forward to this last year, and here we have another murderous, you know, life conquering robot in or AI in the last Mission Impossible movie, The Entity. And so we keep flipping these roles from sex to destruction, the entirety through all the AI in movies. It's really unbelievable that these two themes keep coming back up.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, and they always say if you can imagine it, it can happen, right? And if you can dream it, it can be a reality. Like you always hear this saying. Well, I think scientifically, where our dreams and where our imaginations stem from is the inner God within us, but we're only using 10% of our brain. So it's only a glimpse of what's actually possible. But when you speak stuff into existence, you might just be doing that. And that's why you got to be careful with your words and not jinx yourself, because you literally are bringing that into existence.
Well, how come spells only exist in English? Well, English is a spell in itself. I mean, you had John Dee and Francis Bacon. I mean, Sir Shakespeare there, or both of them were part of this society, and they created the English language as an amalgamation of every other language, so that there was a basic language that everybody could be taught in, but everybody could also be controlled by spells in.
Yeah, see, and that second part I think was definitely the higher priority, because the reality is English is really complex to learn. When you compare it to other languages, it's easy if you start with it, but it's difficult if you're transferring.
It's very difficult because
it's backwards.
Not only is it backwards, but it also incorporates all these other languages or ancient languages into it.
It's part of the whole Roman theory here. I think the Romans had a lot to do with this type of stuff, because they took away, you know, certain things in the calendar. They went ahead and changed the tuning frequencies to 440 from solfeggio, which stopped the chakras from being unlocked with frequency. And then, you know,
what is the Schumann resonance? It's what, 432 or whatever? And
432 is a form of solfeggio. 532.
Then we went to 440, and now, like, if you listen to music, it's all the saw technology. That's how they digitize it. And so saw technology it's a spell in itself. I don't know if any of you guys listen to Mark Devlin at all. Sadly, he's gone a little flat earthy, but a lot of his stuff around music theory and like the whole music industry.
From the saw wave specifically versus a sine wave.
Yeah, saw versus sine. And so a lot of our music today, because it's digitized, is all saw wave technology, and it's cutting. It's designed to provoke.
Well, that's where all your techno and all your
right. It's
juicy sounds come from. Yeah. And you know, you take psychedelics and you start playing with these sawtooths, and you see what happens to your brain, and things do change. I don't know if it's for the positive or the negative.
Or are you inviting in archonic energy? These are the questions.
Yeah, no, and that I play with synthesizers as a passion.
I'm a programmer as well. I was in an industrial band for years. I totally get it.
It's there. But again, we're in a dualistic nature, and so saying things are good or evil, I mean, like I was saying earlier, if you go look in the mirror, you can do
good
both.
Is evil, evil does good. So this is yin and yang, right? Yeah.
All about balance and being in control. And I think that you never want to underestimate a drug or underestimate your own mind, but at the same point, striving to balance it and control it is definitely what we do. Back to the English thing, I just read this comment,
That
and
was brilliant, actually. Whoever just posted that. English is not my language, but I still think in English. So
yeah,
wow.
yeah, right.
Me as well. I'm German and Dutch. I grew up in Nepal. I mean, English was like my 5th language growing up. So
You notice that we remove certain vibrations out of the English language, like V and Z, and certain types of vibrations.
in
there's
in
zero
Commission times there were no vowels. Vowels were the sacred. Sorry, Bernie. Vowels were the sacred stuff of spells back in the day.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Kemet was KMT, Kemt, right? There's no vowels expressing that. And so it's interesting that now we bring back these vowels, and they all change how we think about language because we all pronounce them differently, right? Anyway.
Sacred vibrations too, like the chants and certain things in the Gregorian, if you look at them, and also in the Hebrew specifically is
Big time.
full
Yeah.
of specific vibrations that we just don't hear in our language very much. And I think they tried to eliminate that to keep our mind or to keep our eye closed, because our eye springs open when it hears those vibrations, or it stimulates, and we can create that connection with our spiritual whatever. And I think that they're trying to prevent that. That's why the fluoride and certain things are being utilized against us to stop that interaction and that connection to
We
whatever
must have a
light.
disclaimer. Fluoride is great. It does great things for your teeth, and it's a wonderful
If we're
thing.
vanity and sin, I mean, if you want
It's
to
a
put makeup on and
carcinogen.
lie to people, I mean,
It is a
yeah,
carcinogen. Yeah,
let's
no.
go.
No, I'm doing the Jimmy Dore aspect. Oh, everything's wonderful, even though we're talking shit about all these things. They're all wonderful. That way we don't get demonetized or anything along these lines.
Exactly.
Totally, yeah.
It's all
But it's
good.
interesting that Germanic and Hebrew both stem from ancient Phoenician. They're the only languages that do.
Yeah.
And I've often found this really fascinating. And
There's something to that for
there's
sure.
something to that. And it's not just coming out of the studies that David does in Prometheus back to the movies, but there is truth there. It's like these are the 2 oldest languages in the world that stem out of a Phoenician language. And so you have the Shina language of South Asia, which it predates Sanskrit by like 3,000-4,000 years. There's some interesting languages out there that are so old. I'm curious how these things are going blue and red. This to me is, because blue and red are not phosphorescent colors that you find very often.
Not common, especially the red is calcite. This is calcite.
As well as yellow too, that are in some. That's what really.
Yeah, the
like,
yellow.
Well, those are the alchemical colors again, right?
Good point.
Yeah, true that.
Blue, green,
And this one here is strange
red,
because it
yellow.
goes. It turns blue after.
So there's a secondary effect. Interesting. That is really interesting, but it doesn't last very long. It does have a half-life.
It's almost like they have it timed, because on this piece here, let me see if I can find the right guy that it does it to here. I think it's this one.
Oh, interesting. What? And that has the yellow in it.
It's almost shaded,
like it gives it depth almost, like between the 2 colors. It's crazy. It's like giving it like shading. Yeah, it's
and so what we're gonna do, if these pyramids really did put out energy, and these pieces are limestone and absorbed it somehow, and people were able to take crystals and things and manipulate the light, and that's what alchemy is. Okay. So what we're going to try to do, or what the professor wants to do, is he has what's called an agitator, and it puts out 280 suns worth of UV energy. And so we're gonna put one of these objects into this. It looks like a microwave, and we're gonna let it rip and see what happens.
Sparks be flying, mate. Sparks be flying.
Yeah,
please do it on alive with us, my friend.
It's 2,500 watts, and we're only using 25 watts in these flashlights. So I can't even imagine what that's, gonna
I
how
have one of
bright it
those, but
is.
it's not a UV light. It's like a really high spectrum flashlight. The thing like lights up my entire backyard when I turn it on. Like, what is going on over there?
Well, it's like this thing will get this guy all the way over here glowing.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, and the light's on, so you can imagine it's
Yeah,
pretty
no, that's
powerful.
crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
We'll see. All right, guys. I'm gonna pull Julia and head out to.
I need you as well. So let's
yeah.
let's pull the plug.
We all do. We 2 hours 13
I've got an 8 in the
minutes
morning meeting, so it's like
yeah, it's time.
Yeah, I've actually got a day of work tomorrow too, luckily.
Well, this has been a beyond fabulous and fascinating Woo Wednesday. Glad Julia got to throw in a lot of her piece as well. And we just went around rhubarb. I really enjoy this. This has been really fascinating. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Bernie. Thanks, Hans. And yeah.
Oh, wait, Hans. We're glad you got your power back and you got your heat going again because
we had the craziest. I woke up and I was like getting ready to dive into my meeting, and the power went off at like 9 this morning. And like, what? And so I had no idea. I called the power company. They're like, oh, it's going to be off till 8 or 9 tonight. And I'm like, are you kidding me? And so I drove down the street, and during the ice and windstorm, this tree blew over and cracked in half one of our like major like power line sources. And poof, 9 hours later, they're still working on it right now, actually.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I'm super stoked to have power back because it was getting cold. I went to the gym. I'm like, I can't even cook food. It's like, shoots.
Right? Like how easy it really is for Mother Nature's force to come in and set us
and
back.
We take all of our technology for granted, and it's just like,
we truly do.
We truly do.
Thankfully, they've recovered it somewhat for you. Hopefully, they get it.
I'm so glad. It was like 8:45. It came back on. I'm like, yes, I can shower now, and the heat's gonna come on. I can actually have dinner. So
right, it was meant to be. So please do reach out to Johnny Enoch as well as the Templar Alchemist knowledge.
I will. Definitely. I've chatted with Johnny already. He's kind of interested in possibly doing something. But getting Hogan on a show would be amazing. So yeah.
I agree. Fully. Well, thank you, Hans.
Chickens and pickles, bro. I like that. Yep, I agree with that. The raccoons, unfortunately, would kill all my chickens and eat all my pickles, but
raccoons are wild.
Oh, I have a family of 3 that kind of comes into my yard every night. We have an outdoor cat, and so eats the outdoor food, and it's crazy. It's the 3rd generation or 4th generation of the same family, and so it's like the mother always brings her young pups around, and then the female of the young pups eventually grows up, gets pregnant, and brings all of her. And I know them because I have eye contact all the time with them. And it's like, I know you, and I don't want to shoo you away, but you're kind of disruptive in my yard.
You're being manipulated by domesticated raccoons, essentially.
Seriously. I just need to become the guy on YouTube with the hot dogs.
I was literally about to say, Hans, like that's why I was asking if you have a security camera, because we need to get Hans's coons eating hot dogs every Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 2 a.m. to Sunday.
Coon cam. I could totally see that. Wow, that would probably go viral. But anyway,
Hans's coon cam. We're gonna make it trend. And shout out to Aaron Carver in the chat. Thank you for the super chats, brother. Everybody should go check out his new project, as well as Mystery Ian. We would love to do an episode on that, and I will be in touch, good sir. And we'll be back Friday.
Have a good night, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you, huh? Much love, brother. That's awesome.